Every possible thing you could ask of a football player, Troy Polamalu had an answer for. He could show any look the game state required of him, fly across the field at the speed of light, lay anyone out at any time, and knew the opponent's snap count better than most fathers know their sons. Relentless dedication to the game, married with once-in-a-generation defensive instincts packed under a glorious head of hair, helped shape an era-defining career for a storied franchise. It's time you really get to know who the smartest player in NFL history is. Before the world knew about his tremendous football IQ, Troy Polamalu was tearing it up in the classroom. Although he was born in Southern California, Troy chose to move to Oregon with his aunt and uncle at the age of 8, where he spent his formative years. At Douglas High School, Polamalu was not just a three-sport athlete, but also an honor student. All-state in football and baseball, in addition to all-league honors in basketball, Troy was no slouch when it came to athletics. It was on the gridiron where he truly made waves as a two-way player with over 1,000 rushing yards and 8 interceptions as a junior. When USC came knocking, Troy knew the time had come for his return to sunny Southern California. The move felt destined in more ways than one. After all, a man named Troy becoming a Trojan just makes sense. After seeing limited time on the field as a freshman, Polamalu spent plenty of time studying up on film so that he could seize his opportunity as a sophomore, announcing himself with a pick six against Penn State to set the tone for the rest of his collegiate career. 2 more pick sixes as a junior went a long way in helping Polamalu earn All-American honors, leading the team in tackles with 118, developing a reputation as a big play machine, constantly generating turnovers and blowing up plays at will. While his numbers took a bit of a dip in an injury-riddled senior season, Polamalu was still named an All-American in 2002. At the conclusion of his USC career, head coach Pete Carroll gave a glowing endorsement of Polamalu to the press, saying, "He's as good a safety as I've ever coached. He's a brilliant football player. He's just as effective as those NFL guys I coached. He is creative, fast, tough, and instinctive. He has a great heart, which all great players have. He adapts to everything that we can throw out there. He makes all the adjustments, all the checks, all the calls. He helps other people play well. He can do anything we ask. Blitz, cover deep, play man-to-man, he always does a little bit extra." Surprisingly, many pre-draft analysts didn't exactly agree with the legendary coach. Sure, Troy had heart, was absolutely rapid, and indiscriminately laid punishment upon any receiver who dared enter his vicinity. However, that was seen as a weakness by NFL scouts, who felt Polamalu's tendency to go rogue would routinely get him out of position, something that could prove costly at the next level considering the fact that Troy was undersized to begin with at 5'10". He was still seen as the top strong safety prospect in the 2003 class, projected as a late first or early second round pick. Nonetheless, Pittsburgh traded up from 27th to 16th overall in order to select Polamalu, in the hopes that he could replace the departing veteran Lee Flower. Considering his draft grade, the positional value of drafting a safety this high, and the aggressive trade up by Pittsburgh, and his selection was seen as something of a reach. However, it would soon become apparent that every team which passed on Polamalu had made a massive mistake. You see, for all the talk about intangibles in the pre-draft process, there has perhaps never been a prospect more abound with them than Troy Polamalu entering the league. Of course he studied film, but what truly set Polamalu apart was his unparalleled feel for the game, which would remain dormant through his rookie season, where he was deployed primarily as a backup. But everything changed upon the hiring of veteran coach Dick LeBeau as defensive coordinator in the Steel City. LeBeau prioritized versatility in his 3-4 scheme, packed with disguised looks where a Swiss Army knife like Polamalu was built to thrive. LeBeau trusted his strong safety to make the right choices, allowing him to abandon coverage assignments as he saw fit, placing unreal faith in the second-year safety, which paid immediate dividends. By 2004, Troy was the starting strong safety in Pittsburgh, leading the team in total tackles and interceptions to earn the first Pro Bowl nod of his career. He snagged a crucial interception in his first playoff appearance, although the Steelers bowed out to the eventual Super Bowl champion New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Despite the bitter end, Troy had finally proved he was worth the first-round selection by being named second-team All-Pro, but that was merely the beginning. 2005 was a legendary year in Pittsburgh, and that was thanks, in no small part, to the contributions of their star safety, Troy Polamalu. He set an NFL record for single-game sacks by a safety, downing David Carr 3 times. Later in the season, when the team found themselves without starting QB Ben Roethlisberger, desperate for the defense to step up, Troy led the way. Against Green Bay, he slipped into the backfield untouched, generating pressure on Brett Favre, who was stripped immediately. Polamalu ran it back for a 77-yard score to keep Pittsburgh on track for a postseason berth. It was plays like these, where Troy impeccably reads the offense and literally turns the tide of the game, that proved every ounce of faith placed in him by LeBeau and company was completely and utterly justified. Not only was Polamalu a big play machine, but the all-pro safety was a big game player, leading the team in combined tackles in a playoff run that ended Pittsburgh's 26-year trophy drought. Now a champion in the pros after downing the Seahawks in Super Bowl 40 with a Defensive Player of the Year podium finish at the age of just 24, Troy Polamalu had nowhere to go but up. A shoulder injury limited his impact in 2006, where Pittsburgh experienced a bit of a Super Bowl hangover, finishing the year 8-8. The following season was much of the same, suffering a knee sprain that kept him out for a total of 5 games. An unceremonious return to the playoffs yielded just 2 tackles for the former Trojan, as once again, the Steelers ended the season with a whimper. Despite struggles to remain consistent on the field, Polamalu had already left an indelible mark on the game. The versatility and dynamism that his one-of-a-kind footballing mind afforded him meant that Troy was making the strong safety position his own. He was named to consecutive Pro Bowls in 2006 and 2007, despite not registering a single interception in the latter. But his contribution was so much more than raw numbers. Polamalu was a game changer whenever he lined up on the field. Any doubts of his contributions were put to rest in 2008, as Polamalu was the heart and soul of the league's best defense. He led the Steelers with a career-high 7 interceptions during the regular season, the best of which came against San Diego in Week 11. Troy scoops a tipped pass mere millimeters off the ground in a diving one-handed catch that exemplifies his outstanding athleticism and footballing instincts. Polamalu truly outdid himself in that year's AFC Championship game against a stacked Ravens team. With the Steelers narrowly edging their division rivals 16-14, Joe Flacco aimed to lead a game-winning drive with 4.5 minutes left on the clock. Instead, the Ravens QB is effortlessly read by Polamalu, who snatches the pass out of midair and runs it back for his first postseason touchdown, sending Pittsburgh to the Super Bowl in the process. The Steelers edged Arizona in Super Bowl 43, and in the blink of an eye, Polamalu had 2 rings across 5 seasons as a Steelers starting strong safety. He earned his second first-team All-Pro nod and another top 5 finish for Defensive Player of the Year in 2008. But once again, injury immediately followed a stellar season for Polamalu, who missed 11 games with a recurring knee issue. 6 of the Steelers' 7 losses that season came without Polamalu on the field, a clear indicator of his impact on the team's overall performance as they missed the playoffs. Maybe the reckless abandon that had made him such a compelling player to watch was beginning to catch up with the 29-year-old. Troy proved early on in the following season that that wasn't the case. He came to play, leaping over the Titans' O-line and dropping Kerry Collins in Week 2, a play that epitomized his perfect marriage of instincts and athleticism. Safe to say, the knee wouldn't be holding him back. Polamalu tied his career best with 7 interceptions, one of which was a pick-6 on Carson Palmer, his former college roommate. The week before, he got a crucial strip sack on Joe Flacco, which went a long way in tying up the division title and a first-round playoff bye. It was this simple. If there was a big play to be made, Polamalu was there, which earned him the 2010 Defensive Player of the Year award over another former Trojan, Clay Matthews, strengthening what was already a Hall of Fame resume. Although he had a quiet game against Green Bay in Super Bowl 45, as Pittsburgh struggled to contain Aaron Rodgers, Polamalu had put together a truly remarkable 2010 campaign. He was rewarded with a 4-year, $36.4 million contract extension months after his 30th birthday. If that doesn't tell you the kind of player he was, I don't know what will. Troy was unstoppable off the field as well, completing his degree in history at USC during the 2011 lockout. He followed that up with an even stronger 2011 season from an individual perspective, remaining an all-round menace, an all-pro safety, and the most important piece of LeBeau's defense. Shockingly, it would be Tim Tebow's Denver Broncos that sent Pittsburgh packing in the postseason. A calf injury kept him out of action for a fairly unremarkable 2012 season in the Steel City. The front office understandably looked to replace their 32-year-old safety who had missed 11 games the year prior in the upcoming draft. But Polamalu simply used this as fuel to propel his 8th Pro Bowl season. He matched his career high with 7 tackles for loss, logged his 3rd career pick-6 alongside 2 sacks, making him any QB's worst nightmare. An 8-8 record wasn't enough to get Pittsburgh through to the playoffs, but their living legend had shown he still had something to give, which convinced the front office to reward Polamalu with a 3-year, $20 million contract extension. Despite the goodwill that deal suggests, Troy's career would be over sooner than anyone had anticipated. After missing 4 games through a knee sprain and a season where he had clearly lost a step, Polamalu would play his last game in the NFL against a familiar foe. The Steelers crashed out of the playoffs 30-17 against the Ravens at home, with Troy contributing a respectable 8 tackles and 1 QB hit. He entered the 2015 offseason with every intention of playing out his contract, but decided that it was time to call it a day on his career and instead focus on his family, a move which demonstrated his intelligence far more than anything he could do on the gridiron. With a highly decorated career, which included 4 first-team All-Pro selections, a Defensive Player of the Year award, and 2 Super Bowl rings, there were plenty of avenues for Polamalu to pursue within the world of football. But when he said he wanted to enjoy his family, he truly meant it, staying completely under the radar and out of the public eye until he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2020. Polamalu's legacy is difficult to define, because he was an anomaly in every possible sense. Not only was he able to see things on the field that others couldn't, as his longtime teammate Ryan Clark pointed out.
He's the most naturally smart human I've been around. We've been around people, Ivy League educated, you're extremely educated, you're extremely smart, but also you've been around people who it's not like you can learn that.
Yeah.
Right. But Troy is like, when he absorbs something, when he feels something, like he can explain it in a different way. I used to always ask him, I used to be like, bro, like when you're in cover 3, right? And if you're in cover 3, you have the flat. He's supposed to, if anything comes out of the backfield, it's his. Right. I was like, when you're in cover 3, like, how do you know the blitz? Cause I want to do that. Like, I want to blitz when I ain't supposed to and get sacks and everybody loves me. When my man's wide open and they throw it to him, Ryan got to go tackle him. And he goes, well, CRC, when you study during the week, you get the formation. And then you can tell by the knuckles. And soon as he said knuckles, I said, shut up.
Yeah.
But Troy was in a system in Pittsburgh that allowed him to hone and act on those instincts. Add to that a rare athlete in terms of speed and power, packed in a smaller than average frame with a soothing voice and demeanor, which his teammates have often referred to as spiritual, and you have one of the least replicable careers of all time. What any player can take from Polamalu is sheer grit and determination. The intensity that he played with is impossible to forget, as Pittsburgh wielded it to terrorize the league for over a decade. While he's undoubtedly one of the smartest, is Troy Polamalu the best safety of all time in your eyes? Let us know in the comments.